Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Business Casual. I am Emma Henderson, Managing Editor of Aftermarket News, and with me today is Tanya Hunt. She is the Commercial Project Manager over at TerrePower. How are you doing today?
Hey, Emma, doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I'm very excited to talk to you because when we chatted a little before this, I learned you are like the definition of someone who wears a lot of hats and works on
Yes.
balancing things that work constantly. And I feel like that can be a lot of people's biggest struggle is just how do I get things done and go from task to task?
Absolutely.
So let's start off by doing your journey in TerraPower. So how did you kind of get started with the company and your career journey and then find the opportunity that you were looking for? Because obviously you were driven by your career goals.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I will start from Auburn University. I graduated in 2009. It's been a long time, with the project management concentration. So I've always kind of been the wear many hats, do lots of things all at once kind of girl, which it takes a special person to want to do that, right? But I was recruited by oil and gas to Houston, Texas as a software, oil and gas software consultant. From there, I did that for a couple years and then kind of flipped to the client side, was a super user for the software. And then I kind of came back to, hey, I still really would like to be a project manager. And they were like, you can do that, but you have to get some finance background first. And so I ended up in a finance kind of 2 or 3 year stint. And during the 2014 oil and gas like mass layoffs started happening. And I was like, hey, do you want to go to Denver or do you want to, take a severance package? And my nephew had just been born and I was like, I can't go any further west. So I took the severance. So I had software background with some finance sprinkled in that I was kind of getting comfortable with and still wanted to be a project manager. But I went home. I actually reconnected with my college sweetheart and got to be near my nephew and started looking for jobs. So I was doing online recruiters, taking everything I could get to find my next thing because I didn't want to be unemployed very long. So I'm in my like mid 20s, right? So finally, I had a phone call of, hey, we found your resume for a different job. Would you be interested in a finance software gig at BBB Industries, which is now TerrePower? And I said, sure, why not? And so I went in, had an interview, got engaged, had an interview, and started. And it's kind of like the rest is history. But yeah, I was a senior financial analyst for 2 to 3 years. And I was like, hey, I still really want to be a project manager. And I really got along with the commercial team. And so, I had a marketing degree as well. So it made sense that I was naturally attracted to them. And so a commercial finance position was created within the company that was new. And I was like, hey, I feel like that's kind of a good bridge to show my intent and to get on the commercial side. And then from there, because BBB is a growing company, another role was created, which is the commercial project manager that I am today. I have been doing it about 7 years now, but because every day is different, special projects are bolted on and off. Never a dull day. So never bored, always exciting and always fun to work with new people. So
I think it's interesting because your job title is project manager, but if you look
mhm.
at a lot of people's job descriptions, there will be a project management like bullet point and
Mhm.
expectation. So I'm curious for you as someone who does this full time, what makes an effective project manager?
Yeah, and I thought about this, and I think communication is the obvious answer, but you cannot be successful without it. So I actually can tell people that I over communicate. So it may be annoying, but I was like, you assume people know and then they don't. So I think over communicating and communicating to all parties ultimately leads to success. But also, there's a lot of us and them when you're working cross departmentally. So, like if you have product managers and category management and pricing and sales and finance and accounting, the us and them mentality may not be public, but it's kind of an underlying, oh, well, they need to do that or we need to do this. And so I think bringing that to the team and that we are one company with one goal in this particular project, that helps a lot. And I've always said that I wouldn't ask someone to do something I wouldn't be willing to do. So if it's like data entry or analysis or the workflow chart, I wouldn't assign that to someone if I wasn't willing to do it myself, or at least help them do so. So I think being willing to do each person's role and also bringing everybody together with that communication and that common goal helps a lot.
Yeah, and we touched on this in the beginning. So basically, as a project manager, you're a professional hat wearer. You wear
Yes.
many different hats every single day and have to be able to shift. So explain to us how that works, and if you're willing, give us a few tips, some things that you have figured out in your years of experience.
Yes, I have learned in my late 30s, nothing happens without a calendar. So yes, I can flip hats throughout the day where I'm doing forecasting 1 minute, SIOP another, finance another, special projects, volunteering, all those things. And I think having it, I use a paper calendar, I live and breathe by it. And also my personal life sneaks into that of what should I be doing after 5 today. So highly recommend paper calendars actually, but then also having it kind of linked up with your Outlook, because if you don't have that reminder flash up and you're juggling work and family and personal, it gets a little crazy. But also just knowing like your ultimate why helps you with like your small yeses and nos, because there's a special project around every corner. Like you can't say yes to all of them. And I have learned to kind of choose my yeses and nos, and as I am able, of course, because sometimes the answer is yes, always. But yeah, just kind of knowing what has the biggest bang for the buck, what does the company really need, what has the biggest benefit to focus my time on, and then get to the other smaller things as I can.
I relate to you on that so much. I have the paper planner. I use the computer planner as well, and I literally have a physical notebook in front of me right now with notes from the last time that we talked, because I just find it so useful to write things down. It's like it just goes to a different part of your memory and sticks for longer. So I'm curious what your advice would be to other people in the aftermarket and how they can also wear many hats.
Yes. Okay. So through your professional career within your company and also through the Auto Care Association, I think it's just asking questions and getting started. So at work, I look around to see anything that needs like business improvement. That's kind of my expertise of looking at, what workflows can we create? How can we streamline this so that everyone knows what each person is doing to get something done quicker? But also if you're volunteering, just kind of raising your hand saying like, hey, I want to, do something to help. And so volunteering for the special project at work or volunteering to be a member or a subcommittee member, within the communities, it's kind of definitely a start to wearing multiple hats.
Definitely. And then you get to the point where you're wearing so many hats that you have to learn how to say no, and that's half the battle as well.
Yes, absolutely.
How to politely decline, I guess I should say.
Yes. Not at this time.
Not at this time. It's so funny because I actually had an extra note on here that physically said that you have a physical calendar and you use it regularly, because that's how important it was when we talked about it in our meeting. How important is that organizational component of making sure you have your ducks in a row before the day starts?
Yeah, I think it's really important because I do use it day to day, and it helps like if anything falls off of a day, it gets to another one, because I think things easily fall off. But it also helps me just know where I need to in the calendar, I know like what's my number one goal, my number one priority, what can wait, what can't wait. And that helps me decide like if I need to work extra today or like, because I have 2 little girls who are turning 5 this year. And so do I need to work late tonight? And if I need to work late tonight, I need to take care of my business for them, And so ultimately, like I truly care about my team and supporting them. And so I have to know what their priorities are to set mine. So that's kind of where the communication comes in of like, when do you need this by? Is this a today situation? Because you got the fire drills that come in, and then you have the just nice to haves, or wouldn't it be nice if we had a report that did this, And so it's just kind of being able to juggle that, know what's most important and what truly is due today. Like, as you hear end of day from 20 people, and finally you're like, somebody's not getting end of day. So yeah, I think it's just making sure you're communicating like, hey, here's all the things that I am doing, which the calendar has. Does something need to fall off? Does it need to be tacked on? And, do I need to plan my evening differently?
The public deadline and the real deadline for what's
Yes.
going on.
Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
I got to know you, well, I think we met briefly at Apex, but really Women in Auto Care and learning about Yang was the first time I encountered you. And so when I talked to you about a type of secondary topic you wanted to discuss, it was not surprising to me that you brought up community. I'm just very curious, and I have to ask you, from your perspective, what makes the aftermarket such a unique community?
So I think the aftermarket is unique because it does have all the community. So like aftermarket in itself is a community, but then you bring Auto Care Association in, and I am a big fan of Auto Care Association. They not only are a community, they created miniature communities so that if you didn't feel like you belonged, you could find another group within the group to belong. So I'm involved with Women in Auto Care and Yang. Was more active with Women in Auto Care as a champion first, but then I got involved with Yang as well as a subcommittee member, council, and now this coming year I'll be chair. But I love that they give you a home to plug in to feel like you're part of that bigger industry, because it's kind of like, big industry, small communities. And so you can find your people. So like if you just didn't know where to start, you go into, like, if you walk into Auto Care Association's doors, you would find people. Like everyone there is amazing. If they're not your people, they know your people. And so I just love that if you're under 40 or you're a woman or you're content, which is really like a behind the scenes superhero, ACPN, I'm not a part of them, but I have done some training as a Moonlight content person. That you have someone that can talk to, that you can relate to, that is on the other side, that may not be in your building, but is, phone call, text, email away. So I truly just love that they're for each other and they work with each other. And so it's just like all the competitiveness is left outside, and we can truly just be a good industry and support one another. Like it's very homey, and I love it. And I love being part of it. And I like being one of those people that if you find me, I will help you find your people too.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes it's nice to talk to people outside of your own silo, and those organizations really help you do that. So for someone who is trying to find their community within our space, what would your suggestion be? I mean, you weren't always in this industry, so how did you get more involved and start to really feel comfortable here?
Yeah, so my first 3 years in the industry, I did not know about Apex or Auto Care Association, Yang, Women in Auto Care. I just wasn't aware. I was very busy my first 3 years, obviously. But when I joined the commercial team as the project manager, one of my first jobs was to coordinate Apex and AWDA. And so walking into Apex, obviously, coming from oil and gas, I never went to a trade show in oil and gas. So this was definitely a first. Walking into that trade show and just seeing how big the industry was not actually overwhelming to me. It was actually really amazing because I'm an extrovert. So I was like, this is awesome. Let's do this. I loved it. I had a news anchor desk and everything. So I like ran our booth. But that is where I found Auto Care and Women in Auto Care, and they were having a breakfast. And I didn't know about Yang my first year, but once I found Women in Auto Care, I found a Jessica Delicious, a Liz Whalen, a Jackie Lutz, and so from there you kind of found Auto Care Association, communities, people who will champion for you. And so I actually look for the newbies because I was one, and I just remember not knowing. And so I reach out and I say, hey, if you want to know anything about Women in Auto Care or Yang specifically, here's my name, email, number. I will talk to you. I'll find out who I can connect you with, whether it be a subcommittee, a mentor, council opportunity, whatever they're looking for. I kind of help navigate that. If you're just getting started and you're not going to Apex, because that's obviously the biggest and easiest way, going to the Auto Care Association page, you'll find connection circles for women in auto care. You'll find a mentorship program at Yang. ACPN has lots of good stuff too. I'm just not as familiar, but they scoop you up very quickly as well. So definitely easy to get started. And like, I put my name out there if you need help. Just I've actually had someone contact me on LinkedIn, and I'm like, yeah, what can I do for you? And I found somebody in their state to connect with. So
on this podcast, we do something I call your aftermarket 3. It can really be any defining moment. It can be a person. It can be an opportunity that you had in your career that keeps you around. So I'm curious, what are yours?
Okay. I think my number one is going to be my current boss, Chris Garner at TerraPower. He is the EVP of sales, and we've been working together the last 10 years. And so I feel like without knowing him, I wouldn't have stayed. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be a commercial project manager, and I wouldn't have had the privilege and honor of being able to serve as a volunteer. So like he's been able to give me permission to say yes to the things I've gotten to say yes to and ultimately end up in positions to help others. And so that's been really amazing. Apex is my number two because that is where my eyes were open to the aftermarket and the Auto Care Association. Y'all will hear me say all the time that I'm the biggest fan of Auto Care. Everyone you meet is amazing. I don't know how they do it, but I love it. I would join them in a heartbeat. And that, Auto Care brought me to Women in Auto Care in Yang, which you meet all of your industry besties there. And it's just a reunion every time we have an event with them. And then my third is the Impact Award. Everything I've done up to this point kind of led up to the Impact Award. It was a goal of mine, to be honest. And it was cool to see it come to fruition because I am aging out very quickly. I'm turning 40 next year. So, but I like to say that the Impact Award's a start line, not a finish. So now it's okay. You've been recognized. Now what are you going to do? And so I look forward to further making people proud and helping reach out and just further the community and further the industry.
Well, it sounds like you're on the right path. And I think wearing many hats, you obviously are meeting many people and doing many things. So Tanya, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thanks, Emma.
And
Appreciate
thank you
it.
to everyone else for watching.